Thank you for joining me for this episode of God Talk. And oftentimes, when I'm needing to record an episode of God Talk every Thursday, sometimes I'm struggling with ideas. But I have to tell you, I have 5 different ideas I could go with today that I think would all be good topics for a podcast. Still, some stuff could be said about the Charlie Kirk stuff, the memorial service on Sunday. I would like to, critique some of the different people. I'd like to clear up some confusion, and you know what? I'm going to do that anyways. If you got Charlie Kirk fatigue, that's not what this podcast is about. So keep listening. But I do need to say this: Frank Turk, amazing, clear declaration of the gospel. If you want to know what the gospel is in a clear and concise, near perfect explanation, listen to how he describes the gospel and his whole speech about Charlie. It's short. It's like 3 or 4 minutes, but powerful if you know what good is. I mean, it's kind of like when I was in college, I thought Taco Bell was good tacos. I mean, I think a lot of us get confused on what good is. I'm telling you, this is good, right? This is good. Listen to that. Then there's, please, with all my heart, please don't think your loved ones watch you from heaven. If I had $1 for every time I was told Charlie was watching people from heaven, I'd be a rich man. Charlie is not watching from heaven. God watches from heaven. Charlie is not God. Charlie's not Messiah. We as people, nowhere in Scripture, none, zippo, are we told that we have awareness of what's going on this earth when we're in heaven. Now, I think people do it because it brings them some comfort. This is how I explain it. I apologize. It's a little rude, a little crass, but this is the only way I'm going to break you from this desire to want to think your loved ones are watching you from heaven. No one wants to see you have like bowel movements from heaven or diarrhea. Like, they don't want to see that. They don't want to see your pain, your hurt, your suffering, because there's not supposed to be any in heaven, and that would break their heart. And for those of you who are married, if your spouse dies and you remarry, they don't really want to see you making love to your new spouse from heaven. So can we stop with the loved ones can watch us from heaven? They can't. No biblical proof for it. And in practice and practicality, it does not work out. All right. I would like to say a lot of other things about it. But I would just probably offend some people. So I will move on to what should be a less offensive topic, but the one that I really want to talk about today. I'm gonna teach you a phrase that, in my mind, I heard for the first time a few days ago. It was actually people having a commentary on the Charlie Kirk thing where I heard someone invoke this phrase. I don't think I had ever heard it before, but I don't remember details, so I could have heard it 100 times. It's still new to me sometimes. But I almost hesitate to give you this phrase because it is an evil phrase. It could be involved in cantations of evilness. It is such an evil phrase. You're not going to recognize it as such. And I'm going to have to convince you, like, you don't have to quick turn off the radio, cover your kids' ears. Like, this isn't like vulgar or foul. And I'm going to have to work hard, hopefully not too hard, to convince you what an evil phrase this is. But the phrase is this: do as thou wilt. Now, that's Old English, isn't it? Do as thou wilt. It's Old English because someone coined that phrase or made it popular back from the late 1800s, early 1900s. So I guess a more modern translation of do as thou wilt would be do as you wish. And if you think about that phrase, that's an evil phrase. I mean, it should send chills up and down your spine. And I'm going to explain why. So, we're told in the Bible that our battle is not against flesh and blood, but these spiritual powers and authorities. And the more conversations I have with people and the things that I hear and just the way that the devil wreaks havoc in people's lives, is overwhelming. Honestly, it's overwhelming. But we see physical manifestations. I mean, like he does it like subtly, where we get thoughts. We think other people are doing things like they're out to get us, and they're not. Like there's those subtle ways that Satan wreaks havoc in our lives all the time. Maybe makes us really insecure in our marriages or what have you. These are very subtle things. Like he almost gives us feelings. It's hard to quantify that. It goes on all the time. But like there's a physical manifestations of it. And I'm just like the last, month? Of course, Charlie Kirk assassination. You've got that Ukraine girl I talked briefly about a couple weeks ago that was killed on that bus in, I think it was North Carolina. You got the Catholic school shooting. Remember that from a few weeks ago? It seems like 6 months ago, but it's like a month ago. Just yesterday, we had the shooting in Dallas outside of a ICE headquarters detention center area. And like, there's evil all around us. And as evil's exploding around us, whether we're talking about the Kirk situation, I can use that phrase, do as thou wilt. The assassin felt like doing it, so he did it. The mentally deranged black man that was just wanting to kill the white girl on do as thou wilt. The guy that goes in and attacks school kids in a Catholic school, do as thou wilt. Shooting whoever the person was going for, we can assume like he was going for like ICE agents and stuff, but his brother said he had horrible aim. Like, do as thou wilt. Are you starting to understand what a wicked phrase that is and how it manifests itself in all kinds of evil today? Because people are simply doing as thou wilt. Where does that come from? Well, a gentleman by the name of Aleister Crowley, born 1875, died 1947. He's an English occultist, a ceremonial magician, a poet, a novelist, a mountaineer, a painter, and he founded a religion. The religion is Thelema or Thelema. I really should have looked that up before I did the podcast, but it's probably pronounced one of those two ways. His parents were fundamentalist Christian Plymouth Brethren, and he rejects that. He gets trained in ceremonial magic. He studies Hindu and Buddhist practices in India. He honeymooned with his wife in Cairo, Egypt, and he wrote down the Book of the Law. It's a sacred text that served as the basis for his religion, Thelema or Thelema. I'm just going to say Thelema, which he said had been dictated to him by a supernatural entity named, and I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce the same, Iwas, Aiwass. So he's in Egypt. He's starting to meditate, invoke the name of these Egyptian gods, and one of these entities, a supernatural entity, gives him this sacred text that he records. And so this ushers in, and his religion is teaching a new era. And he declares to his followers that they should do as they wish. Do what thou wilt. I'm telling you, evil phrase. And I'll get to why it's so evil. I mean, you're seeing why it's evil, but even like before God, it is incredibly evil. And he kind of grew his practice of ceremonial magic and so forth. He gained widespread notoriety during his life. He became somewhat famous and was known for being a drug user, a bisexual. He had 5 kids, but he was bisexual before bisexual was cool. And and he was a social critic. He was kind of a counterculture kind of guy. So talk a little bit more about his religion and this book of the law that he records. So when he and his wife went to Cairo for their honeymoon, they pretended to be a prince and a princess. And they rented an apartment, and Crowley set up a temple room, and he began to invoke these ancient Egyptian deities, while studying also Islamic mysticism and so forth. Like, he's mixing a bunch of not good things. And according to Crowley, later recounted that Rose, his wife, would regularly become delirious, and she would inform him, they're waiting for you. And they is this god Horus. I mean, are you hearing how demonic this is? Like, they're opening themselves up to spirits, these Egyptian gods. And listen, behind these gods are false spirits, deceiving spirits, demons, like powerful entities in the realm that we cannot see. Crowley later said that he heard a disembodied voice identifying him as one of these gods, Iwis, the messenger of Horus. And Crowley said he wrote down everything that the voice had told him over the course of the next 3 days. I mean, it's a little bit more evil than the story of like Joseph Smith. But you got Joseph Smith having his encounter with the angel Moroni and recording, like, well, he wasn't recording, but he was reading these tablets, right? It's a similar type thing. Like, it's this individual mysticism, but this is definitely like, doesn't even pretend to be of God. It's completely dark. And so he was a big proponent of this, do as thou wilt. He started his religion, and magic is kind of the central feature of his religion, involving physical, mental, spiritual exercises aimed at uncovering one's true will, right? You have to like figure out what your true will is, and then you do it. And it's all undergirded by, deities that are found in the ancient Egyptian religions. Now, some people like to make a comparison between this, and the reason I'm getting into this religion Thelema and this Crowley individual is that there's some ties between him and modern day Satanism. So there's some differences, but clearly Crowley's Thelema religion had some influence on what is the development of modern day Satanism. Now, modern day Satanism is two different things. Modern day Satanism is either a worship of a satanic being, rather than worshiping God. You worship Satan. But some would claim, like with Satan, your worship of Satan, you're worshiping not, I don't want to say an equal, but you're worshiping someone that does not impose his will on you. But God, they would say, is evil because God imposes his will on you. So some branch, the one branch of Satanism is this worship of Satan itself. The other branch is this kind of more do as thou will. You're your own God. You do whatever you want. You do what's right in your own eyes. That kind of thing. So there's a fair amount of influence that Crowley's religion had on modern day Satanism. And I'll give you a couple examples of that. So self-empowerment, both Thelema and many forms of Satanism, they advocate for self-determination, individualism, and self-reliance. It's all about you. Remember that's the first sin of Satan, right? Like, he wants to be like God. He leads a rebellion against God. He doesn't like being told what to do. He doesn't like listening to God any more than you like listening to your doctor, or you like listening to your boss. They're all idiots, right? This is what we do. This is what, it's what the spirits do, and this is what man does. So it's all about individualism. It's all about the self. But then with that, the influence on Satanism is a rejection of traditional morality. Thelema emphasizes an individual will and freedom that leads to a rejection of societal norms and religious structures and characteristic is seen in different forms of Satanism. And so, like, in welcome to today's world, we have a rejection of societal norms and religious structures. And so you see the emphasis on this do as thou wilt in our culture today. I mean, it's a Satanism type culture. See, this should get your attention, guys. It should get your attention. It explains a lot in this world today. Crowley's legacy is also kind of tied to Satanism. Crowley's work and his Thelemic ideas included its focus on individualism and occult practices, and that influenced a broader occult revival and development of modern Satanism and other spiritual movements. So really what we see going on in the world today is it's kind of the teachings of Satanism. Do as thou wilt. You know, story of the Amityville horror account in Amityville, New York. The guy like kills his whole family, the one son, kills his brother, sisters, mom and dad. Satan told him to do it. Do as thou wilt. Do as you want. And I'm telling you, like, look around. Sexuality, don't worry about what the Bible says. If you're gay, do as thou wilt. If you want to change your genders, do as thou wilt. All these murders that I talked about at the beginning of this podcast, do as thou wilt. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they've got a family. It doesn't matter if they've got kids. Silence them. You don't like that white girl on the bus? Kill her. Do as thou wilt. It's a rejection of moral standards. I was reading an article yesterday. I hope this is hyperbole, but Charlie Sheen was like, he wasn't bragging, but admitting to like sleeping with 47,000 women. Like I didn't even try to do the math on that. Do as thou wilt. You know, I hope this is a joke. But, you know, they unveiled all the pictures of the president in the White House, and for Biden, they did an auto pen, and like a buddy of mine, he just thought that was the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I said, you would have the mother of all wedgies if like Biden did that about Trump. But you know what? You don't have to act presidential. Do as thou wilt. Like, all right, if it's a joke, I'm all for a joke. And if he replaces it next week or two with a real dignified picture, okay, like that's just who he is. But like, you don't have to be presidential. Do as thou wilt. And listen, I mean, I'm just mentioning Trump because he's in office, and I think religion is beyond politics, and we have to call it out on both sides. But certainly, when Biden and the Democrats were in office, oh my gosh, do as thou wilt. But folks, it goes on both sides. You're fooling yourself if you think Satan is only behind the Democratic Party. No, he's behind the Republican Party. I think he's behind AI. I think he's behind, each of us at different times. Whispering in our ear. Do as you want. Don't worry about tact. Don't worry about loving your neighbor. Don't worry about being kind. Do as you want. You know, this is, do as thou wilt is unchristian and ungodly of a mindset as there can be. It is opposite of our righteous and holy God. And here's what we need to be saying. We need to be saying, your kingdom come, your will be done. You see, my job as a pastor is not to do what I want to do. And people will tell you this, I have the final say on pretty much everything around here, but they'll say, Greg won't do what he wants to do. He'll do what he thinks is best. He'll do what he thinks is right. I remove my own personal biases from it. even in how I deal with my family and so forth. It's not about what I want. It's about what they want. You see, this is the Christian story about a God who put his own will down and gave his only son so that man could be saved. It wasn't about his will, but it was about the salvation of humanity, the betterment of man. He did it for us. And that's what a Christian does. That's what a righteous and holy person does. They do what's right for other people, not for themselves. Satanism is do as thou wilt. Jesus, as he was about to die in the Garden of Gethsemane, he's so worried. He's like, drops of blood are pouring down from his head like sweat. He's begging God if there's any other way. He, just like you and I in his humanity in that moment, was fearing death and fearing the pain and the torture that he'd have to go through to get to death. He prayed that God might take that from him if there's any other way. But Luke 22:42 says this, not my will, but yours be done. You see why that phrase, do as thou wilt, is satanic? I'm glad I heard it because I needed to talk about it in this podcast, but I need to drop it out of my head. It is a satanic, like ritualistic saying, a satanic incantation. Do as thou wilt is the exact opposite as Jesus' phrase, not my will, but yours be done. And so I challenge you, like, you might want to do it, but don't. You might want to think it, but don't. You might want to say it, but don't. Embrace moral standards, the law of God, like societal norms if they're healthy. Like, it's not about you. It's not about what makes you feel better. May God's kingdom come. May God's will be done. Please, please do not do as you wilt. Thank you for joining me for this episode of God Talk, and I look forward to talking to you again next week. God bless you all.